July 15th, 2024. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. This is what the chart looked like today. There was 2 times economic data came out. One was at 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here. 5:30 Pacific Standard was the Empire State Manufacturing. It didn't really look like it did much. It was this really big rally in the overnight though. It sold off, and then Empire State Manufacturing came out at 5:30 Pacific Standard in the AM, and it didn't really do that much. Opened, it kind of rallied up, pushed back down, chopped around, and then the next piece of economic data came out at around 9 o'clock, right about here. And as you can see, it didn't really seem to do that much either, because that's when Fed Chairman Powell comes out and speaks again. He did that a couple times last week, and he spoke for roughly an hour. So this is during his speech, and it was kind of uneventful. Nothing really new that was shared. Overall, the price action looked like it was one leg up, kind of choppy, maybe 2 legs up, another pullback, and then a big leg up. So it was like one leg up. I thought I saw a measured move, then a really strong sell off here, followed by a bounce, kind of a chop, and then coming back down, hits the low, pre-market low, and then kind of goes back up, closes roughly where it opened. I guess it opened up here in regular trading hours, and it got there pretty close. I took a total of 2 trades. Technically, there was a third trade, and I'll explain what happened when I get there. It was kind of a brain fart, but 2 actual planned trades, and then a third trade, which was actually the second trade that was not planned. It was because I didn't have the correct account selected, and I did not mean to take that trade, but ended up being profitable. So I was lucky that all 3 trades were profitable. But per my my profit's going to show 3 great trades, not 3 great trades, 3 green trades. And I don't really consider the second trade that I took as per my metrics because it wasn't really planned. It was kind of a brain fart. So I'm going to go into the trades right now. Okay, so this is a pre-market. Yeah, there's this crazy spike that happened, rolling over, from pretty much starting from Sunday night, and then market slowly did this really big rally. I'm not really sure why this happened. Then sold off in 2 legs, 1 leg down, push up, a second leg, broke the yellow down channel, and it looks like it's consolidating. So I do draw this pre-market high and pre-market lows. At this point, I'm thinking there's a possibility it could be a range day, but with this really big push up, and right before the open, it looks like it wants to create another leg up. So initially I thought there was just 1 leg here, and I had another line drawn for potential measured move going up. And I was thinking it looks like it could be range day, but it feels more like it's going to do at least kind of a big rally or something choppy. So price is open. There's no clean second entries. However, you do get a localized new high here. It's a first entry long pullback, the second entry long. So initially I had this trend line drawn, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and I'm watching and waiting, and it creates this third bounce. Now it's a possible trend line support for potential trading trend channel, and it did break out of this orange up channel. It wants to test the high, but this is just really kind of tight trading right now. The signal bar is pretty low risk. There's enough room for a quick scalp. There may be a trade here, but it's too early in the day for me, so I skipped it. Then, right after I decide to skip it, of course, this big candle closes, and it makes me definitely feel FOMO. It drops around, and it kind of looks like the EMA is holding. So I actually had this as a potential channel. So it's touching the top, so I'm getting 1 touch, 2 touch confirmations. Comes back down, it breaks through. So I'm wondering if this blue, or this channel outlined by the blue, is going to test and make a new high, but it did have a break here already. So I'm thinking this could have been the break, and it could have tested the new high here. Nevertheless, it's a little ambiguous, so I'm just watching and waiting. It flashes down, it breaks through. I don't have this blue trading range drawn yet, but I did keep in mind there's maybe some kind of support roughly here. There's a potential fail breakout here. I saw a yellow down channel here breaking a new low, so I'm thinking down channel may have played out. If it's actually in a range, then it might come back up and at least touch maybe the pre-market high, if not the highs up here. Flashes up, breaks on this orange down channel, comes back. No good clean second entry, so I'm just kind of sitting on my hands waiting right now. Pops around. I don't like to see this where the bodies are really tiny and get these big wicks on each side. It's a lot of indecision, so I'm just kind of staying out of this. pretty noisy. It gets choppy, you get this like up and down action. Right now, it is obeying this pre-market highs, which is right here, because it could be a failed breakout here, and what I think is some kind of support here. So I'm thinking we're going to range in here, thinking a spike up, hops around in a range, and then maybe a push up. Was trying, so it's a new low, first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here because it's a new low, localized new low. First entry short, push up. Second entry short, I did like that this candle pushed one tick up, then flushed all the way down, closing here. What I didn't like, and I didn't call it a trade, is it's a pretty big candle. It's the first break of this orange up channel. So depending on how you drew it, you know, yes, it's a close outside, but I'm thinking it's going to reverse back up. So definitely not something I'm thinking of taking a short on. Kind of chops around, flushes up. It looks like it already attempted to test the highs of this orange up channel. It was at this point, I was thinking maybe the trading range potentially could be where I thought it was here, and maybe it's higher up and not necessarily that important at the pre-market highs. The new high, first entry long, pullback. Technically, I have a second entry long. This is a decent signal bar, but I don't like that the previous bar broke below the EMA. This purple up channel doesn't exist yet. I was actually working off this orange up channel, and I thought, break, test the new high, 2 legs down. It could continue or it could make a second leg off of this first leg, was chopping. But actually, I saw this. I saw it's like a push down. When I saw this, I drew a potential trend line support, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. And the top side, I had it a little bit tighter, something closer to here. And I'm thinking, okay, this is maybe in a channel. It could see a reversal. So I saw first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short, now the second entry short, it's a break of this orange up channel. It broke, tested the high, made 2 legs back toward the EMA. EMA looks like it's starting to show some strength. It is the third confirmation of this trend line or this purple up channel as it later became. I like that it bounced off the EMA here. And when I first saw this, I wanted a better close. Ideally, I wanted this candle to close above this candle by 1 tick, or at least spike up in its lifetime 1 tick and close green like it did. But I took a chance. I thought, I think there's enough momentum because it's probably dancing on the outside of this pre-market high that there's enough momentum to potentially touch the highs here. So I entered 1 tick above, and I will admit when I saw this, it was a little anxious, but what gave me a little more calm, because my entry's here and my stop loss is down here, what gave me a little calm is I'm seeing this slowly trend up, and this actually stopped like 1 tick below my exit. Finally, this one opened, flashed up, made me get my point, and I was pretty happy. But I will say, you know, this wasn't the cleanest entry, and if I waited for a higher low, you don't get one till about right here. By then, it feels like you're too close to the highs. You'd be buying at the highs, even though it is another confirmation touch of this purple up channel. So, if I didn't enter here, I don't think I would have tried to enter here, especially on this semi-mediocre candle. Flashes up, keeps going up though. No clean entries that I could find. Unfortunately, I couldn't ride this up. I didn't have a runner on this trade. Kind of obeys and respects the bottom of this purple up channel, which is great. And at this point, I'm thinking this could be a 2-tier channel because you could see another channel here where the midline of this purple up channel is. It looks like it's kind of obeying it, but then it starts breaking out. This blue line is the all-time highs. So I had that initially, and when it was creeping up, when it got to here, I'm thinking, am I going to see a rejection? Am I going to see a fail breakout and pull back? Because I know right at this level, there's probably a lot of sell orders, not necessarily to crush it down, but for people taking profits. But it flushed up hard and just kind of ignored it right now, kept going. So like definitely it's just like it didn't really even respect the all-time highs. This other blue line is actually the measured move. I saw from 1 leg up, consolidation, and then a second leg up. So I'm watching here now, not necessarily trying to pick a top, but I'm watching to see what kind of reaction I'm going to get. Coincidentally, it also matches where I have my purple channel, top of the purple channel drawn. I kind of had it right here. This is a close outside, but I just kind of considered it pretty tight. So I just said one touch, two touch. Not too worried about this, counting this as an overshoot, especially since all the candles after it for a good long while stayed within the channel. So I'm watching this closely, thinking there is potential for it to reverse, but at least bounce down to here. And if it bounces down to here, maybe there'll be a long trade. Continues floating up, breaks out. It's a failed breakout, comes right back down, flushes through the EMA on this yellow down channel. I see a new high here, technically a first entry long. Pull back, you have a second entry long here, but it's below the EMA now. It's just kind of far from, anything. So it's also an inside candle, so there's no trade there. There's a first entry short, pull back. This is technically a second entry short. The second entry short, unfortunately, is what I call an almost trade. It's a break of this yellow down channel, break one attempt up, push up a second attempt, and then a potential continuation downwards because the first attempt up failed. Second attempt up. The thing I didn't like is I needed this to be a red bar and ideally come up to the EMA touch and have a rejection. So here it just feels a little iffy. Maybe it's going to come back down. Then here's confirmed and the trade's too late. So this is an almost trade. Unfortunately, it just wasn't quite there yet. Continues, bounces, and it flushes up here, pushes above the EMA again. Looks like it's respecting the EMA, and it actually turns out to be first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short kind of fell into the same issue of this. The second entry short is above the EMA, decent signal bar, but since it didn't, it had trouble the two previous bars breaking below the EMA. Plus, this is the all-time highs, this line here. There's just kind of things going for it that there could be a bunch of people ready to buy at this line, push it back up. You could also make the argument that it's going to have a bunch of sellers that once it breaks through, it flushes down. But based upon the strength of this candle, I couldn't make a determination of whether to go long or short. So I just kind of sat it out. Flushes down. Technically, if a new high, first entry long, second entry long, you could argue maybe there's a support here. It's just not very clean, not good signal bars to go long on. And it gets choppy. And so this is actually where I took my second trade, but this one actually wasn't planned. So what I mean was I saw this. I saw prices moving down. I didn't have this purple line up here, and I had some lines down here, but nothing to justify taking a trade here. What I was trying to do is I was trying to set up my NinjaTrader setup to get a runner if I was going to trade something with a runner. So actually what I saw was I saw this and I said, okay, I'm just going to try to take a trade on my simulated account, but I didn't have my simulated account ready. Well, I just didn't have it selected. So I actually took a trade one tick below. It ended up being, I think, 2 ticks. No, actually, it was 1 tick. Oh, actually, it was 2 ticks. I got a little bit of slippage, and it quickly filled me. I saw what was happening, realized, oh, I did not plan on this, so I actually just quickly moved my stop from from its original stop here to 1 tick below, even though it's kind of like on a simulated account. Excuse me, what I thought was a simulated account. When I realized I was on a real account, on my actual account, I decided, okay, well, I'm lucky to have gotten this trade based upon just the first entry short. I'm going to try to just quickly get any profit that I can. So this is a unplanned trade that I kind of fell into profit by dumb luck. But I'm going to be a little more conscientious, double check my setups before I execute a trade. So trade number 2, it's not in the notes, but it's just a kind of a nerfed trade, a brain fart. Prices then continue moving. It's 2 legs up. Technically, it's a first entry short, pull back, second entry short, and I thought this was a possible trade because it creates a lower high. Now, prices appear to be moving down after there's a lot of failed attempts of this purple up channel. This purple up channel is really strong. So when it's this first break, I was thinking, is it going to come back up and test the highs? When it failed here, pull back, failed a second time, and it pulled back, and it looks like 2 legs up. I'm not that concerned that this is going to test a new high now. I'm thinking it's too far from the setup now that this is a whole new trend starting. So I was thinking, yes, there's probably a short trade here. It's a first entry short visual, second entry short, potential lower high. What would have just made this even better is if the close was at the low or during the life of this candle, it broke 1 tick below here. But since it matched the low and pulled back by 1 tick, it gave me a little bit of hesitation, but I do think there was a trade there if you're a little bit more aggressive. Looks like it would have worked though. Prices continue moving. It gets congested here. This is like this support forming here. Another area of support congestion. I didn't really draw my, well, I guess I could draw here, this block trading range here. But there's no trade that I particularly like in here. No real setup. Prices continue moving down. I was thinking I'm in this yellow down channel. Keep in mind this purple one still doesn't exist yet. It hits the low and starts bouncing back up. First entry short, pull back. Second entry short. Now this is actually where I take my second planned trade. So it makes a new low, localized new low. It looks like it broke into the pre-market highs, which is a little hard to trust right now because it was just dictated by this, but it already had a fail breakout here, then a fail breakout, pullback, and continuation up. But there is a line here that had some kind of support slash resistance previously. It broke out, pushed up. So I did see this as a new low, first entry short, break out of this orange up channel, test the new high, second entry short. Second entry short also technically a lower high from here. So it made this double matching top lower high. And I like that it broke out of the orange channel. Attempt was made to make a new high. It didn't. It made a match, and then it made a potential second attempt here. Now in this, it opened, ticked one tick above. It probably played around. I don't quite remember, but it played around below. Then it finally ticked one tick above, and I was thinking, okay, if it moves two ticks, then I'm not as attracted to it. But it made one tick, then flushed down. I said, this is great. And it was flushing down. The candle life was about to end. I think it was like only couple hundred more ticks before this ended. So I dropped in my order one tick below, actually one tick matching the lows of this. It might be a little hard to see, but here's the pink trade, pink arrow. Filled me, and then it closed one tick below. So I really like this entry. I really like this setup. Flushed down, I was really quickly able to get my scalp. Then it bounces around. If I kept my stop up here, it looks like there was maybe 2 points here, but if I waited for more than 2 points, likely this candle would have stopped me out. So it bounces around. I'm thinking there's some kind of resistance here. Looks like there's some kind of support being obeyed here. Potential triple test, but then there's just a triple test based off of nothing. So I couldn't take a trade here. Prices then move down. It falls into the second consolidation trading range. Breaks up, pushes down, starts flushing down. At this point, I was playing with several trend lines, and I thought maybe this one fit pretty well. It's like one touch, two touch, one touch, two touch, potential third touch. It is an overarching or like dominating trend line coming down, but it's hard to trust it yet. I need more confirmations. So I'm mainly playing these shortened trend channels. Comes back to the bottom, breaks with this yellow, touches, makes new, flushes up, fails to meet the high. It is showing bearish characteristics, bearish bias, because the EMA is starting to point downward, which is here. But there are instances where the price action is pushing above and pushing back down. So you can trust the EMA, but not fully necessarily, because there will be instances where it breaks up above it and back down, but it's at least not, like a crazy roller coaster. Prices continue moving down. Technically, you have a new high here. It's a first entry long pullback. This is second entry long, but I didn't really like that it was a doji and it was below the EMA, plus this counter trend to the overall price action. Pops around, it breaks out above, and then flushes back down. Technically, you also have a new low here, first entry short. You have another second entry short, but the same problem here. It's a doji bar. It is hitting the highs of the pre-market, but again, as I said, it's a little iffy to trust it as a potential resistance until after the fact that you see it actually flush down, because you see this and you're thinking, is this really going to hold? Because all the previous price action, early on it kind of did, but after that it seems to be negated. So there's no trade here in my opinion. I was looking for a lower high, but you don't get a lower high till about here, but it's too late, too far. Comes up, bounces, and I was doing some adjusting, and I finally thought, okay, this purple down channel has one touch, two touch, three touch, four touch. I like this as a support. The top side looks like it fits relatively well with this failed breakout. Then prices kind of continue chopping around. You technically have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. Second entry short, it's too tightly traded. Not too tightly traded, it's just the candles are too tight. They're not spanning directly out and above, it's just bouncing back and forth. So it's almost like trading range characteristics. So I didn't quite like the second entry short. Although it's a decent signal bar, it's coming off the top of the range, but already pushed through half of the range, so leaving it alone. bounces up. It looks like it's respecting and holding inside this range at the moment. We do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. The same issue here. It's a doji candle. It's just like this doji, just like this doji on the second entry setups. So it's just hard to trust. Pushes up, bounces around. You technically, again, have a new high, first entry long, another second entry long, but this one's even worse because it's an inside bar. It's also a doji. It's just ambiguous. You're coming from failed breakout, so I'm expecting a matching potential symmetric breakout here, like one leg down, pull back, a second leg down. So definitely don't feel like going long. Plus this counter trend bounces around. It's just dancing inside this trading range. So at this point, I'm watching this and I said, okay, just be calm, be happy that you got your two planned trades and your third trade that just, bonus trade. And don't try to press for anything. So I'm just watching. It pushes up really strongly in this yellow up channel. It has a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here. What I didn't like about the second entry long is it just came from these two really strong red bars. So I had a smaller down channel drawn where this green one was, and it was actually where this midline was is a little bit tighter. So this is a big overshoot. You could argue there's going to be another push up to test the highs, but just something like this makes me a little cautious. I said, wait for a higher low confirmation above the EMA. And unfortunately, you don't get that. And it just kind of gets choppy. I do see a potential second entry long here. It's a new high. It's a first entry long pullback. I like this second entry long, except even though it's a possible trade, I don't like that it's an inside bar. And I didn't have this red channel yet. I did have a trend line going up where I said it looks like it's kind of trending upwards. Now the risk here is only 6 ticks. It's a 6 tick bar, so the total risk would be about 8. Maybe there's a trade here. This area does also feel a little congested, and I was running into the same caution red flags I was seeing with this doji, on the second entry setups, this doji, like this doji, these dojis where it's just like the doji is your signal bar, and that just makes me cautious because if you took a short here, it would have worked out on that doji. If you took a long here on this doji, it would have worked out, and this one here. So I was thinking, is there a possibility that this is also going to be like everything before it? Maybe, maybe not. I definitely don't want to risk any profits just jumping in and thinking, well, it worked the last few times, but the last few times, they didn't really have the best setups. It was like decent setups, but not good enough, especially when the signal bar is doji. Looked like it would have worked in that instance. Prices continue moving up, starts moving up, and I draw the top side of the red channel going upwards, and it looks like it's obeying this channel. It hits the pre-market high. I don't really trust it as a resistance because even though it's the pre-market high, it didn't really act, that well, except maybe a couple of times. But then how do you justify it as a good resistance when it had this huge breakout earlier? So even though I see it here, I'm not necessarily going to trust it as a point of resistance. Breaks out. Technically have a new high, first entry long, second entry long. You could argue maybe there's a trade here. I'm not that keen on it because the EMA is starting to flatten and turn back down. So I'm looking for potentially a higher low above the EMA, but you don't get that. Prices just start flushing down. And you're getting toward the last 30 minutes where prices are just getting a little more whippy. Pretty big sell-off here. So first entry short, and it just keeps going down. It hits the low, the pre-market low, which hasn't been visited since, well, early on. So it looks like it's bouncing, but it's not a justification to take a trade. Plus, it's within the last 10 minutes, flushes up, and it bounces around. I did see this, but this is only like the last minute. I thought if this kind of thing set up early in the day, there might be a potential trade I would have considered because I like that it broke out the yellow up channel. It did test the highs. It's flushing down. I like this characteristic where it broke one tick below, fully engulfed the previous candle. So for something like this, if this happened earlier, I think I might have attempted a trade probably at the highs of this candle. And then let's see if I would have worked. I wouldn't have gotten filled and it would have just ran away. But this is something I think I would have taken a trade on, but it's not the cleanest setup. Plus, it's toward the last 10 minutes, so definitely no trade there. That's kind of how I saw the charts today. The price action there's a little more volume, not a whole lot, but it was kind of trending a little nicer than previous days where the trend lines, the trend channels were a little cleaner. There is unfortunately in this area a lot of bad signal bars or signal bars that were just, dojis, which is ambiguous. It's just hard to really know if the doji, if the bulls or bears are going to win. But overall, I was lucky with lucky with this trade, and I was happy with my two trades. So hopefully that was helpful.